can we have Aman Biswas, the next speaker? Yeah.
Hey guys, nice to meet you everyone. I am Aman. I handle gaming at IndiGG. To start off with, I have a very basic question. How many of you play games? And I'm not talking about Web3 games, just games. Great. This is going to be very easy for me then. Um, what I'm going to be talking about today is how Web3 games, like whatever that says, Web3 games, how they've generally been around conceptually for a long time, why it makes sense today, and how it's been done before already. And to go with the most basic example, let's take a look at two of the most popular games in India right now, CS:GO and Valorant. Conceptually, you don't have to actually look further than something like CS:GO to understand what a Web3 game looks like. I'll make some examples and you might understand. Last year, Monkey NFTs started selling for millions of dollars. But over the last 10 years, digital assets and video games have already been selling for hundreds and thousands of dollars for a long time. And this is what a lot of people native to crypto don't actually understand. Digital assets have been a thing in video games since as early as 1996. Axie Infinity, for example, is a very recent game which exploded the entire concept of Web3 games. But Pokemon, which it kind of is inspired from, has existed from 1996. If you got a legendary Pokemon back in the day, you could sell it on eBay, etc., and you could trade it with someone. You could connect your Game Boy with another one using wires, and you could transfer it. And people would pay a lot of money for that. Back in the days of Diablo 2, which is about early 2000s, there was an entire gray market around digital items of Diablo 2. These items were sold at eBay, Craigslist, not the safest place, but people were buying these things. And that's kind of the case with Web3 games and digital assets, and why I'm going to make a case for where all of this is going. CSGO, let's get to that. Last year, January, CSGO's skin for CSGO sold for almost 150K dollars. It's not a small amount of money. This sold in the Steam marketplace, and you already know where this is going, right? Steam marketplace is probably, if you've played CSGO, if you've played games on Steam, then you know how the Steam marketplace works. People have been trading digital assets for a long time, and there are some flaws to it, but let me just put it this way. Steam has already laid the groundwork for Web3 games 10 years prior. It's not a new concept. And CSGO, your NFTs, they are currently basically vanity. You don't need the NFTs to play the game. And the NFTs of CSGO, quote unquote, don't actually affect the gameplay. If you buy a really expensive gun, like if you buy the $150K gun, it's not going to make you good at the game. If you're good at the game and someone else comes with that gun, you can still kill him, right? The competitive integrity of the game still survives. And as you know, the game's been having concurrent player bases of over 1 million people regularly, right? So let's just start with that. Then let's take a competitor to CSGO, which is Valorant. Valorant, how many of you play? Great. How many of you spend money in Valorant? Great. You're not getting any of that money back, by the way. Just to give you a perspective, right? In Valorant, a single gun pack costs about $100, 7,000 to 8,000 rupees. It's gone. It's a sink. You're never getting that money back. It's tied to your account. And neither of these games' cosmetic items exactly affect the competitive integrity, like I said. It is estimated that 5 to 20% of the game communities take part in microtransactions. It's when it earlier came out in the early 2010s, microtransaction was debated upon, but because primarily microtransactions came about in a lot of MMORPGs, which made them pay to win. If you had money, you could get the best items, and you could just win the game easily. Might remind you of some Web3 games. But that's not the case today. Like I said, CSGO, Valorant, there's a lot of other games, Genshin Impact, etc., etc. These are all games that microtransactions exist, and they don't affect gameplay at all. By the way, Even if you take Steam into account, if you're buying that $150K gun, you can't track it. You don't know where it came from. You don't know where it's going. You don't know where your currencies are going. So I'm guessing a lot of people have heard Clash of Clans at least. You can buy gems in that game. None of that money is trackable. It's again a sink, right? No, you're not getting any of that money back. It's direct going to the developers. It's gone. The only legitimate secondary marketplace in the world of video games, Web2 video games, is Steam. Now, there's a reason for that. It's pretty hard to maintain, and it's not like a lot of people did not try to build a secondary marketplace. A lot of people have failed. Steam is the one that generally could hold on to it. And getting banned in these games after microtransactions means you kind of lose all your investments. Imagine Valorant. How's the internet in Bangalore? How many times have you disconnected from your competitive gameplay? Right? You disconnect 10, 20 times in a month, you're banned for 365 days. Again, all your investments gone. You can't even access your account now. Not only are you not getting the money back, you can't even use your gun. And you can't trade it. Right? So, again, GTA 5, if you mod in the game, you get banned. Online, I don't know how many of you tried. I tried, I did not get banned though. CSGO revenue in 2018 alone was $400 million. A majority of that revenue came from the secondary marketplace. Now, I'm sorry for the lot of text. I did the presentation in a hurry. No, it should be less. But just to give you an understanding, CSGO is a free game today. It wasn't a free game all the time, but today it's a free game. And I believe by 2018, they were already transitioning to the free-to-play system. Though, don't quote me on it. You just have two kinds of things you can buy in CSGO today. One is a $15 premium account so that you don't meet hackers. And like I said, the guns, chests, etc., gloves, swords, no, it's not swords, knives, stuff like that. All of these assets, by the way, remember when I said the $150K gun, all of these assets inflated in value because these assets were tied to a product, and that product was good. That product concurrently had million players. They did not need Ethereum to pump from $500 to $4,000 for the assets to grow in value. They grew in value naturally because of player demand. And honestly, if you've already been hearing and paying attention, it's probably making sense to you already why Web3 games will be a thing, right? CSGO gives us the perfect example, honestly, of how a good game can drive up prices of assets even with fiat currencies. And NFTs for video games, Web3 games, could very well be traded in stable coins. It doesn't have to be an inflationary currency where the currency is spiraling out of control. I don't know how many of you played World of Warcraft, for example. World of Warcraft had a gold inflation problem. Gold is the in-game currency of World of Warcraft. The London School of Economics did a study around World of Warcraft in-game economy back in 2013, something around that. And gamers will grind the shit out of your game if you allow them to. And you tell them that they can earn money. Look, I play personally till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people do as well. If inflationary tokens, at least for as it is, do not make a lot of sense, because no matter the amount of sync, if you tell them that they can cash out of their savings, they will. And that's exactly what happened in World of Warcraft as well. Gold, an in-game inflationary currency in World of Warcraft, you can buy off of the secondary marketplace, gray secondary marketplace. And because of which Blizzard had to come out with a token system for game subscription that you could buy with in-game gold instead of the $15 fees that you originally had to pay. But that's generally about digital assets in the Web2 world. There's limitations of digital assets in the Web2 world, however. For example, like I said, Steam is the only legitimate secondary marketplace in the gaming entire gaming ecosystem, whether you take it consoles, PCs, mobile, your Nintendo. They still have to catch up with technology, but like they're still doing things. But Steam has a 30% fee. Straight up, if you're building a game on Steam, 30% of that money is gone. If you're building an asset on Steam, say a CS:GO gun, and it's being traded around, 30% of all those transaction fees goes directly to Valve. Security and one point of attack. This is a general thing that blockchain solves. Ethereum is very decentralized. It's going to be pretty hard, I imagine, to hack it. Uh, and that's kind of the point. If you have an open marketplace that can be hacked, it's not a good thing. Now, Steam hasn't been hacked, as far as I know. But imagine this. Again, let's go back to the $150K skin. You don't know where it came from. You don't know where it's going. What's stopping Steam from just duplicating that gun and selling it in another gray market that's on the websites, right? Nothing. You have to rely on Steam's goodwill in order to make sure that the assets you're buying off of the market are unique and they're not going to just duplicate and sell it for their own profits. Game design limitations set by Valve as well. If you're building a game on Steam using the Steam marketplace, you're very limited by whatever Valve tells you can and cannot do, right? Think of PUBG PC. PUBG PC is a game built on Steam as well. It has the same like secondary marketplace usage. You can sell PUBG guns, pants, whatever, glasses on the secondary marketplace. But I'm sure Valve had a lot of things to say when they decided how these things could be implemented. Game also, by the way, whatever game you're building on the Steam secondary marketplace gets tied to the Steam store and cannot exist outside of it. Just think of CS:GO right now. Do you think it could exist as a game with the same revenue model outside of Steam, maybe in PlayStation or Xbox or mobile? Think about the revenue, not about the gameplay. I don't think so, because Valve would need to shift the entire secondary marketplace to all of these structures in order to maintain that. And like I said, it's generally hard to maintain. So if you're building all of these things should give you an idea about why a centralized marketplace has limitations. Like I said, PUBG PC cannot exist on Epic Store right now with the revenue system that it has. Now, this is where things get interesting and where I will give you guys a bit of a hard-hitting truth, but also maybe a ray of hope. Indian game industry is 5 odd years away. I think we can agree on that, right? Like the game consumer industry, whether you're seeing content, streaming, events, everything. Germany has Gamescom. We have nothing close to that, honestly. Indian game development industry, again, 15 to 20 years behind. Think of all the top games that India is playing. Genshin Impact, Valorant, CSGO. Any game that you can think of on mobile, PC, consoles. India doesn't have the talent, infrastructure, mentorship, foundations to build those games as of today. I'm not saying it will never happen, but as of today, it's a problem. For Web3 games, though, everyone's in the starting line. Every single person is confused. No one knows what's going on. Everyone's trying to figure out economies. The funny part is no one's actually paying attention to the game, which is hilarious. If you're trying to convert gamers, I think the best idea is to first concentrate on the game and then work on economic models. And also maybe not try to complicate it too much. This is where my general pitch for everyone in this room comes in. Web3 games as an industry and as a market, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for India and Indians. Like I said, we're pretty behind when it comes to the Web3, when it comes to Web2 gaming ecosystem, both in developer and consumer side. Everyone's in the starting line. Just imagine what would happen if, say, we had like the Bollywood of video Web3 games in India somewhere, right? Maybe we could gather a lot of talent together. To give you an idea of what IndiGG does, for developers, We provide incubation and funding for upcoming Web3 games and studios. In fact, we can even help you design your game. We come from a very core game design, game industry background. We know other game designers in the industry, can connect you and help you build games that are actually fun to play and long lasting. CSGO has lasted over almost 10, no, it came out 2012, so it's been 10 years now. The idea is we want to build games that are lasting, not coming up in a year and then dying the next. Games that honestly make the most sense with Web3 games are games like multiplayer games or games as a service. Multiplayer games, again, Valorant, CSGO, and such. Games as a service, think of Genshin Impact. Think of World of Warcraft. Games that are constantly updated over time with stories, with things to do, and more characters and digital assets to buy over time. That's where your metaverse kind of thing is going, by the way. Our plan to grow this industry in India is pretty simple, honestly, because, like I said, it makes a bit too much sense for us. We want to grow the scene in the grassroots level of the country by doing regular yearly game jams and crypto hackathons. What do you have when you have game developers and crypto tech people? You have Web3 game developers. At least that's how I see it. And honestly speaking, we haven't even touched on the concept of a metaverse or a creator economy, which I think we've also kind of figured out in a way that maybe others haven't, because we keep talking to the game developers and some of the concerns that they have is answered. So that's generally my entire BBT. It's really small, but I hope it made sense. If anyone has any questions, I'm here for like 3 minutes, maybe 2 more if they allow. But yeah. Any questions? Yes.
So the word on the street with most gamers, if you go on a Discord server like Game Dev in or Gamer to Make or whatever, and you say, "Oh, there's this Web3 game," and you talk about it on a Discord server with regular gamers in India, you're gonna get trashed, right? Web3 games have a very bad reputation with the mainstream PC game dev bro, so to speak, right? So what's the way forward? Do you see things changing?
I think, great question. I think things will change automatically. If you see the top Web3 game today, in the last 2 years, Axie Infinity, I guess, and you see the top Web2 game, Elden Ring, I think there's a disparity in quality, right? That's one thing. Generally, it's just Web2 games as a concept are very new, and there's a lot of building yet to happen. A good game takes anywhere between 3 to 5 years to build. Red Dead Redemption took, I believe, 6.5 years. So good games will come, and when you just need one good game to change everyone's mindset. That, and also another thing. Generally, the pitch for Web3 games have been coming from VCs, investors, and executives. Gamers don't like them. Gamers are pretty exploited already. You go to Assassin's Creed, it's a single player game with thousands of microtransactions. Why? Right? When Ubisoft decided to put NFTs in their games, look, I play Ubisoft games myself, but they decided to put NFTs in a game that's been dead for 5 years and you have to play 600 hours for a gun. Why? Again, right? You play 600 hours in CSGO, you'll get 10 of them. So that's generally how I see it. I think it's going to be a natural evolution. And I think the general understanding that gamers have about NFTs and digital assets do not come from game designers or gamers. They come from VCs, investors, and people who are generally just trying to figure out revenue models rather than figuring out how games can utilize them in a meaningful manner.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi. So Aman, actually,
Yeah.
on that point itself, right? What's in it for the studio? Because what we're coming to consensus on is The studio still has to build a good game, and that has its own like long life cycle and effort and what have you. And from the sound of it, there is quite a bit more effort involved in trying to figure out if and whether blockchain should and should not fit into what I would otherwise build as a good game. So I understand the incentive for creators and I understand the incentive for gamers, but what's in it for the studio? If we're interested in building a really good game, I'll still do that. Why does it need to be blockchain?
Really nice question. I think the answer is if you see the CSGO marketplace. Like I said, it's a free-to-play game that generates $400 million in revenue. You go look at Dota. Dota has the largest prize pool when it comes to any sports event. One of the largest prize pools when it comes to any sports event. And this is done through a thing called compendium, digital asset, kind of. Digital assets offer a lot of gameplay opportunities as well as revenue opportunities for studios, especially for indie studios. One of the basic things that I can say right now is that there's money being thrown around, and if Indian devs decide that this is a really good opportunity and an industry that they can take part in and build on, like I said, everyone else is confused. This is our opportunity to lead the market rather than follow. And indie games, one-man games have already become a thing on Steam. Stardew Valley, Dusk, Terraria, etc. I play a lot of these. Imagine Stardew Valley having, say, the same kind of concepts with farms, and whatever crops you're selling, instead of you selling it to an NPC, is just going in and out through players, and they do something with it, maybe cook, whatever. But generally, yeah, it's a secondary revenue, marketplace revenue. It makes a lot of sense for game devs to invest time in it, because right now, if you see multiplayer games, like I said, you don't own anything. But in the 5 to 10 years coming, I think a lot of gamers are going to soon realize that why should I spend $100 on Valorant when there's the same game like Valorant where I can spend the same amount of money and keep my asset and then trade it if I decide to not play it tomorrow. And that generates revenue for you without putting in a lot of effort over time. Yeah. I think you had a question last.
Hi. I think it relates to the question that you just answered as well, which is absolutely the final case for gamers when they realize that they are playing a game which is good and which they would play even if it was they had to pay to play for it, but then they can earn assets out of it. My question is with the currently we're not there, right? But currently we have gaming guilds where people are playing those kind of games, right? So how do you see this transition happening? Because when, let's say we're talking about Valorant, so we're talking about a Valorant where you can make money as well. How will the current ecosystem transition to that? Because the tokens that you're getting right now are for these kind of games, right? And if the interoperability of these tokens doesn't come in, then somebody who's playing games right now, somebody who's playing play to earn games right now, their tokens don't really have value.
I would suggest seeing the current generation of Web3 games as similar to how you would see a VR in 2005 when Nintendo released it. Nintendo did not release a flawed product. They had the best of intentions. Same for Diablo 3. When they came out with a real money auction house, they had the best of intentions. Like I said, Diablo 2 item trading was already happening, right? Yeah, could you just repeat?
So what I'm saying is that would it not make sense for somebody who wants to get into play to earn games to wait until there is a game which is sufficiently good so that the tokens that they earn in that game or what they make in that game has more value?
So I think, like I said, it will come naturally. It's not about right now when gamers are looking at Web3 games, they're looking at it as an opportunity, which is not how you look at Web2 games. You don't look at, oh, I will get Elden Ring's first copy so that I can sell it to someone else for a higher price. I don't think it will matter eventually. honestly speaking. Right now, people who are trying out these games, Axie Infinity, and a lot of other games, these are first movers who are trying to understand the scene, and they will have advantages going forward in a lot more ways than if they start 3 years later with a brand new good quote unquote NFT game. I'll explain why. If you were playing World of Warcraft since the beginning, or if you were playing MMOs since the beginning, you understood the concept of a guild in those games. And then when you went into World of Warcraft, you could easily dominate that game because you understood the core concept of how a game would flow, what you would be able to do, and how you could take advantage of it, right? If you look at a World of Warcraft right now, guild kind of concept exists there. There's several people doing several different things. There's people who are just raiding, there's people who are building mats, farming mats, there are people who are crafting, there are people who are gaming the auction house. So I see it as a first movers thing in the same way you would get a VR device today, even though there is not many applications for it, but whoever has used the VR device for sure knows what's coming next. And it's in the same way, while I cannot speak for all gamers, for me it has been a personally very educative journey to learn about Web3 games because makes sense, and then I can position myself better when all of these new games come out. Maybe I become an entrepreneur and have an esports team and buy these assets. Maybe I make games like this, indie single dev. Maybe I have a group of people who are playing these games in a very serious manner and farming things for currencies. So the opportunities are not like here's a checkbox of things. The entire scene is growing over the last 2 years, max, honestly. The concept of crypto Web3 games have been around, but the real explosion came in the last 2 years. So I think the opportunities will also organically come around. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Aman, for your great talk.